Welcome, church. Welcome to this holy and sacred time known as Good Friday. This is our Good Friday Tenebrae service. Tenebrae from the Latin for shadows. This is an ancient worship style that you may have seen put in words as a service of shadows. The sanctuary begins with all of our candles lit. Each of these candles is representative of one of the readings that we will hear today, read in different voices, just as there would have been different perspectives, different identities, different people present during this week. These candles are representative of the fact that in this moment, the light of the world is still alive, still blazing forth, and still casting light in the darkness. This evening's service is based on the timeline of Jesus's final week. Specifically, his final week is found within the Gospel of Mark. And this service has been written in such a way that it was influenced by the book, The Last Week, which was written by Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan. After each movement, reading, or day is read, a candle is extinguished. This signals our journey through this final week of Jesus' life here on earth, starting with Sunday and ending with Good Friday. And so we start out with the light of the world, that center candle, that Jesus light present, and we visually will then move forward toward the complete extinguishing of the light on Good Friday. At that point, the sanctuary will be in complete darkness after the last movement of the service, with the exception of the Christ candle. And with the last reading that we have, John chapter 1, the final light will be put out to symbolize the crucifixion and the end of Jesus's earthly life. There will be a period of silence following the extinguishing of that light as we shroud the sanctuary, which is symbolic of the death of our dear brother, friend, and Messiah. You will hear a loud noise in the darkness. That recalls the tearing of the curtain and the breaking of the altar in the temple at the moment of Jesus' death. I like to warn people ahead of time. At that point, our service will have reached its conclusion, and we ask as you depart to do so in prayerful silence. However, you do not need to leave right away. If you feel called to sit and soak in the feelings or the sensations you may have experienced this evening, you are invited to stay as long as you need, to stay in the darkness of the sanctuary for as long as your spirit asks you to. And if you need someone to pray with you or someone to just sit and be present with you, simply remain in your seat, and I will come and check on you, and we can be present with each other. So now, as we do with every service, let us take a big, deep breath together. Let us signal to our hearts and our minds and our spirits that we are stepping into a different place and space, that we are moving into a sacred space. And so let us prepare our hearts, minds, and spirits for the journey that is to come. God is light, in whom there is no darkness at all. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Jesus is the true light that shines on all people. The light had come into the world, and the world came into being through the light. But the world didn't recognize the light. Tonight we gather and we remember. We remember how so long ago, in an instant, everything was changed. The light had come into the world, and the world loved the darkness rather than the light. Let us sing together our opening hymn. You may remain seated for this. And let us sing that Advent hymn, Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, number 196 in your hymnal, and the words will also be displayed on the screen. Come now we have our first reading. The prophet Micah predicting the birth of Jesus and his ministry.
Hear the words of the prophet Micah. As for you, Bethlehem of Ephrathah, though you are the least significant of Judah's forces, one who is to be a ruler in Israel on my behalf will come out from you. His origin is from remote times, from ancient days. He will stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. They will dwell secure, because he will surely become great throughout the earth. He will become one of peace. Sunday, Mark chapter 11, verses 1 through 11. Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. Jesus enters Jerusalem. When Jesus and his followers approach Jerusalem, they come to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives. Jesus gave 2 disciples a task, saying to them, "Go into the village over there. As soon as you enter it, you will find tied up there a colt that no one has ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' say, 'The Messiah needs it, and he will send it back right away.'" They went and found a colt tied to a gate outside on the street, and they untied it. Some people standing around said to them, "What are you doing, untying the colt?" They told them just what Jesus said, and they left them alone. They brought the colt to Jesus and threw their clothes upon it, and he sat on it. Many people spread out their clothes on the road, while others spread branches cut from the fields. Those in front of him and those following were shouting, "Hosanna! Blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessings on the coming kingdom of our ancestor David. Hosanna in the highest." Jesus entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. After he looked around at everything, because it was already late in the evening, he returned to Bethany with the 12.
For want and suffering we've ignored. Come and cleanse us, then restore us, make new hearts within us, Lord.
And now our third reading for Monday, Mark 11:15 through 19. Jesus enters the temple.
The next day, after leaving Bethany, they came into Jerusalem. After entering the temple, Jesus threw out those who were selling and buying there. He pushed over the tables used for currency exchange and the chairs of those who sold doves. He didn't allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. He taught them, "Hadn't it been written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you've turned it into a hideout for crooks." The chief priests and legal experts heard this and tried to find a way to destroy him. They regarded him as dangerous because the whole crowd was enthralled at his teaching. When it was evening, Jesus and his disciples went outside the city.
Now let us sing our responsive hymn, "Be Thou My Vision," number 451 in your United Methodist hymnal, verses 1 and 2.
Reading number 4, Tuesday, Mark chapter 11, 27 through 31, and chapter 12, verses 13 through 17. Controversy over authority. Jesus and his disciples entered Jerusalem again. As Jesus was walking around the temple, the chief priests, legal experts, and elders came to him. They asked, "What kind of authority do you have for doing these things? Who gave you this authority to do them?" Jesus said to them, "I have a question for you. Give me an answer, then I'll tell you what kind of authority I have to do these things. Was John's baptism of heavenly or of human origin? Answer me." They urged among themselves, "If we say it's of heavenly origin, he'll say, 'Then why didn't you believe him?'" The religious leaders sent some of the Pharisees and supporters of Herod to trap Jesus in his words. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are genuine and you don't worry about what people think. You don't show favoritism, but teach God's way as it really is. Does the law allow people to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay taxes or not? Since Jesus recognized their deceit, he said to them, "Why are you testing me? Bring me a coin. Show it to me." And they brought one. He said to them, "Whose image and inscription is this?" "Caesar's," they replied. Jesus said to them, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." His reply left them overcome with wonder.
Verses 1 and 2 of number 2177.
Wounded world that cries for healing, here we hold each other's pain. Wounded systems, bruised and bleeding, bear the load, the scars of strain. Rulers ration out compassion, our decisions rule the day. Jesus of the healing Spirit, free us to another way. Though our nation spent frustration through the corridors of stress, may there move a kind, their wisdom, all may feel and all may bless. Tax and tithe are for a purpose, shared to shield the poor and weak. Past the symptoms of our sickness, let the voice of justice speak.
We are now at Wednesday and through Mark chapter 14, verses 1 to 11. Preparations are made. It was 2 days before Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The chief priests and legal experts, through cunning tricks, were searching for a way to arrest Jesus and kill him. But they agreed that it shouldn't happen during the festival. Otherwise, there would be an uproar among the people. Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to give Jesus up to them. When they heard it, they were delighted and promised to give him money. So he started looking for an opportunity to turn him in. On Thursday afternoon and evening, Mark 14, verses 12 to 26, the Passover meal. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb was sacrificed, the disciples said to Jesus, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover meal?" He sent 2 of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the city. A man carrying a water jar will meet you. Follow him. Wherever he enters, say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is my guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, already furnished. Prepare for us there." The disciples left, came into the city, found everything just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. That evening, Jesus arrived with the 12. During the meal, Jesus said, "I assure you that one of you will betray me, someone eating with me." Deeply saddened, they asked him one by one, "It's not me, is it?" Jesus answered, "It's one of the 12, one who is dipping bread with me into this bowl. The human one goes to his death just as it is written about him. But how terrible it is for that person who betrays the human one. It would have been better for him if he had never been born." While they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them, and said, "Take, this is my body." He took a cup, gave thanks, gave it to them, and they all drank from it. He said to them, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. I assure you that I won't drink wine again until that day when I drink it in a new way in God's kingdom." After singing songs of praise, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
Now let us sing together in remembrance of me, number 2254.
Remembrance of me, eat this bread. In remembrance of me, drink this wine. In remembrance of me, pray for the time when God's own will is done. In remembrance of me, heal the sick. In remembrance of me, feed the poor. In remembrance of me, open the door and let your neighbors in. Let them in. Take, eat, and be comforted. Drink and remember too that this is my body and precious blood shed for you, shed for you. In remembrance of me, search for truth. In remembrance of me, always love. In remembrance of me, don't look above, but let your heart look for God. Do this in remembrance of me.
Thursday evening. Mark 14:32 to 42. Stay here and keep vigil with me. Jesus and his disciples came to a place called Gethsemane. Jesus said to them, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John along with him. He began to feel despair and was anxious. He said to them, "I am very sad. It's as if I am dying. Stay here and keep alert." Then he went a short distance further and fell to the ground. He prayed that, if possible, he might be spared the time of suffering. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Take this cup of suffering away from me. However, not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Couldn't you stay alert for 1 hour? Stay alert and pray so that you won't give in to temptation. The spirit is eager, but the flesh is weak." Again he left them and prayed, repeating the same words. And again he came back. He found them sleeping, for they couldn't keep their eyes open and didn't know how to respond to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Will you sleep and rest all night? That's enough. The time has come for the human one to be betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go. Look, here comes my betrayer."
Now let us sing together this responsive hymn, "Jesus Walked This Lonesome Valley," number 2112. And we will ask Sophia to play it through once for us. Jesus walked this lonesome valley. He had to walk it by himself. Oh, nobody else could walk it for him. He had to walk it by himself. We must walk this lonesome valley. We have to walk it by ourselves. Oh, nobody else can walk it for us. We have to walk it by ourselves. Must go and stand your trial. You have to stand Now let us hear of the Thursday night. Mark 14, 43 through 45, and 53 to 63, where Jesus is arrested and tried.
Mark 14, 43 to 45, 53 to 63, Jesus is arrested and tried on Thursday night. Suddenly, while Jesus was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, came with a mob carrying swords and clubs. They had been sent by the chief priests, legal experts, and elders. His betrayer had given them a sign: "Arrest the man I kiss and take him away under guard." As soon as he got there, Judas said to Jesus, "Rabbi." Then he kissed him. Then they came and grabbed Jesus and arrested him. They led Jesus away to the high priest, and all the chief priests, elders, and legal experts gathered. Peter followed him from a distance, right into the high priest's courtyard. He was sitting with the guards, warming himself by the fire. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for testimony against Jesus in order to put him to death, but they couldn't find any. Many brought false testimony against him, but they contradicted each other. Some stood to offer false witness against him, saying, "We heard him saying, 'I will destroy this temple constructed by humans, and within 3 days I will build another, one not made by humans.'" But their testimonies didn't agree even on this point. Then the high priest stood up in the middle of the gathering and examined Jesus. "Aren't you going to respond to the testimony these people have brought against you?" But Jesus was silent and didn't answer. Again, the high priest asked, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus answered, "I am, and you will see the human one sitting on the right hand of the Almighty and coming on the heavenly clouds." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "Why do we need any further witnesses? You've heard his insult against God. What do you think?" They all condemned him. He deserves to die. Thursday night and early Friday morning. Mark 14, 66 to 71. Peter denies Jesus. Meanwhile, Peter was below in the courtyard. A woman, one of the high priest's servants, approached and saw Peter warming himself by the fire. She stared at him and said, "You were also with the Nazarene Jesus." But he denied it, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand what you're saying." And he went outside to the outer courtyard. A rooster crowed. The female servant saw him and began a second time to say to those standing around, "This man is one of them." But he denied it again. Short time later, those standing around said to Peter, "You must be one of them, because you are also a Galilean." But he cursed and swore, "I don't know this man you're talking about." At that very moment, a rooster crowed a second time. Peter remembered what Jesus told him: "Before a rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And he broke down sobbing.
Let us sing together our responsive hymn, number 292. What wondrous love is this, verses 2 and 3.
Wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul. What wondrous love is this, O my soul. What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of life to lay aside his crown for my soul, to lay aside his crown for my soul. To God and to the Lamb I will sing, I will sing. To God and to the Lamb I will sing. To God and to the Lamb, who is the great I am, while millions join the theme, I will sing, I will sing. While millions join the theme, I will sing.
We've come to Friday. Why? What wrong has he done? Mark 15, 1 through 15. At daybreak, the chief priests with the elders, legal experts, and the whole Sanhedrin formed a plan. They bound Jesus, led him away, and turned him over to Pilate. Pilate questioned him, "Are you the king of the Jewish people?" Jesus replied, "That's what you say." The chief priests were accusing him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Aren't you going to answer? What about all these accusations?" But Jesus gave no more answers, so that Pilate marveled. During the festival, Pilate released one prisoner to him, whomever they requested. A man named Barabbas was locked up with the rebels who had committed murder during an uprising. The crowd pushed forward and asked Pilate to release someone, as he regularly did. Pilate answered them, "Do you want me to release to you the king of the chosen people?" Pilate knew that the religious leaders had handed Jesus over because of jealousy. But the chief priests and legal experts stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas to them instead. Pilate replied, "What do you want of me to do with the one you call the king of the Jewish people?" They shouted back, "Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Why? What has he done?" And they shouted even louder, "Crucify him!" Pilate wanted to satisfy the crowd, so he released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus whipped and then handed him over to be crucified.
Let us sing together this hymn, a prayer and a plea, and we will sing it through 3 times.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Our final reading. He came to his own people, and they did not want him. John 1:1-13. The life light. The Word was first. The Word was present to God, and God was present to the Word. The Word was God, in readiness for God from day one. Everything was created through him. Nothing, not one thing, came into being without him. What came into existence was life, and the life was light to live by. The life light blazed out of the darkness, and the darkness could not put it out. There once was a man. His name was John, and he was sent by God to point out the way to the life light. He came to show everyone where to look and who to believe in. John was not himself the light. He was there to show the way to the light. For the life light, Jesus, was the real thing. Every person entering life, he brings into light. He was in the world. The world was there through him. And yet, the world didn't even notice. He came to his own people, but they did not want him.
Lord